Alabama, Notre Dame. Those two brands on the same line are college football, elite, blue blood, tradition, prestige at its finest. And they will meet in the first round of the college football playoffs in 2020. Alabama ranked at number 1, Notre Dame at number 4. Let's look through the tradition, which goes back to the beginning of modern college football and the dominance of these two programs. Alabama more recently, of course, and more consistently throughout the history. Notre Dame, one of the blue bloods as well, of course. And there can be a debate, not necessarily about what's happened over the past 12 seasons since Nick Saban has dominated college football in Tuscaloosa, but all time, quite the debate can be raged and will down in the comment section below over who has been best. Let's check out the numbers all time. Alabama third all time in wins at 916. Notre Dame just 8 behind, tied for 6th. Since 2000, we used this as a measurement, being this century, this millennium as well. Alabama at 214 and 63. Most of those losses coming before Nick Saban took over in 2007 when his team went 7-6. Notre Dame at 172 and 90 since the year 2000 over the past 21 college football seasons. Nick Saban has been the gold standard. His Alabama football team winning 5 national championships, 7 SEC titles since Saban took over. He's won 88% of his games. Brian Kelly has done fine at Notre Dame since 2010. 102 and 38, 729 winning percentage. Alabama has finished in the top 10 in every Nick Saban season since 2008 when they lost the SEC championship game to Florida, then avenged that loss, of course, in 2009 as Saban won his first national championship in Pasadena at the Rose Bowl over Texas. Notre Dame is 5-4 in bowl games. They have finished with 3 top 10 finishes in Brian Kelly's 11 seasons. All right, winning percentage. Very, very tight here. National championships, always much debated in this sport because they are not consensus national championships necessarily, and we've only had a national championship game of sorts since 1998, and truly a playoff or an invitational, actually, since 2014. Alabama claims 17 national championships. The NCAA.com site lists them with 15, Notre Dame with 13. In the poll era, Alabama has 12 national titles and Notre Dame with 8. In bowl games, Alabama has been substantially better at 42, 26, and 3. The Irish all-time at 519 and 19. Not very successful in recent seasons, though. Notre Dame has pretty much been a disaster in postseason play since Lou Holtz roamed the sidelines until 1997. Top 10 rankings and national rankings. Notre Dame has been ranked in the final AP poll in its history 55 times, 37 times in the top 10. And we also note that Notre Dame has finished 11th in the final AP poll 5 times. Notre Dame and Alabama here at 57 times being ranked in the final AP poll, 43 times in the top 10. Nick Saban, again, has been ranked 12 consecutive years in the top 10 at Alabama, 2008 through 2020. All right, since 2000, Notre Dame ranked in the final poll 10 times, 3 times in the top 10, and 3 times at number 11. We will note that as well. Alabama's been dominant, of course, with 5 national championships under Saban, including one under Gene Stallings more recently than Notre Dame's last national championship in 1988 with Lou Holtz on the sidelines. Gene Stallings and Alabama winning over Miami at the Sugar Bowl in 1992. But since 2000, Alabama has 14 ranked seasons, 13 in the top 10. Heisman Trophy winners. This is a very subjective category, of course. It's voted on. It's not determined on the field necessarily. Notre Dame had 7 Heisman Trophy winners to Alabama's none after Tim Brown won the most recent one for the Irish in 1987. And then that team won the national championship the next year over West Virginia. Bama's lone 2 Heisman Trophy winners. So Alabama, as storied as any program in the history of college football had no Heisman Trophy winners until Mark Ingram in 2009, and then, of course, Derrick Henry won in 2015. Consensus All-Americans. This also depicts where, although Alabama has been highly ranked and highly considered and produced tremendous football players throughout its history, Notre Dame dominated in this category early with 102 consensus All-Americas all time. That's number one in college football. Alabama's sixth with 74. But since the year 2000, Alabama has had 36 consensus All-Americans. Notre Dame just 9 since 2000. And for Alabama, with Notre Dame with 9 in the last 21 seasons, Alabama's had 5 just in 2018. Tua, Jerry Jeudy, Q Williams, and some of the notable ones for Notre Dame since 2000, Julian Love, Mike McGlinchey, Manti Te'o, of course, and Jalen Smith. These two powerhouses have met on the field 7 times. Notre Dame holds the edge at 5-2. Of course, the most recent game was a very important one for the 2012 National Championship, the BCS Championship game in Miami, and Alabama steamrolled. But let's get to the earlier contests. The 1973 Sugar Bowl, Notre Dame won 13-11. Al Hunter had a 93-yard kickoff return, which countered the Mike Stock to Richard Todd 25-yard touchdown pass for the Tide. Bob Thomas's game-winning field goal won it with about 4 minutes left to play. Notre Dame 13-11. Also, we had a great game in 1975 where Notre Dame won 24-23 at the Orange Bowl. That Notre Dame team came in at 9-2. They had lost to USC and Purdue, and they knocked off number 1 Alabama. That was Ara Parseghian's final game in 1975. Wayne Bullock was the game's MVP for the Irish, 83 yards and a touchdown on the ground. In 1976, the two teams met for the first time in regular season play in South Bend. It was a 1-versus-2 matchup. Ozzie Newsome had a big game for the Tide, but Jeff Rutledge threw a costly interception in the fourth quarter as Notre Dame held on to win 21-18. The teams met 4 years later in Tuscaloosa, and Notre Dame won a defensive struggle 7-0 with a key fourth quarter stop on 4th and 1 with about 6 minutes left to play. Then there was a 2-game series with Ray Perkins taking on Lou Holtz in 1986 and 87. Holtz's first team at Notre Dame was not very good at 5-6 in 1986, and they lost to the Tide 28-10, Alabama's first all-time win against Notre Dame in South Bend. But the Irish got the payback the very next season in Tuscaloosa, 37-6, a 7-versus-10 matchup, and of course, Tim Brown, of course, won the Heisman Trophy. And then the BCS Championship game of 2012 in Miami. Alabama led 28-0 at halftime. I still remember the look on Brian Kelly's face as he was being interviewed on the sideline at halftime. He was shell-shocked, could not believe what his number 1 ranked defense had run into, meaning Eddie Lacy, 140 yards, TJ Yeldon, 108, A.J. McCarron, 4 touchdown passes on 20 of 28 passing for 264 yards. The Tide defense was dominant, not giving up touchdowns until it was garbage time. Alabama rolled. Amari Cooper scored 2 touchdowns. Bama 42 and Notre Dame 14. Our trip down memory lane and our comparison of the two programs all time. Alabama and Notre Dame, they will settle the score, of course, the latest edition, January 1st, at the Rose Bowl in Arlington, Texas. Alabama number 1 and Notre Dame number 4. Would love to get your thoughts, your memories, and your impressions of Notre Dame and Alabama down in the comments section below. We talk college football all the time. Smash the like button and please join us. Hit that bell for the notifications. That way you know when we're going live, which is every day, typically multiple times a day, right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football.